Good evening, viewers. Welcome to Punchline Africa Television, broadcasting all the way from the Political Command Center in Africa, across the continent of Africa. Wherever you are in Africa, from north to south, south to north, east to west, and west to east, remember our continent is the dearest. It's the only thing that we have that God gave us, and the only thing that we must protect from any external influences that could destroy our continent. This evening, viewers across the continent, I am privileged to be with Professor PLO LUMUMBA, who is right in Tanzania, in Arusha, the headquarters of East and Central Africa, where all meetings, where all judicial activities take place. Arusha, as is well known, the Arusha Declaration, which you know very well, became one of the king makers of political science in Africa. The social equalities that Mwalimu Julius Kambarage Nyerere wanted can be seen around Arusha. Arusha and Moshi. Some of us who have been there was a country, there are towns that made history. The Uganda Moshi Conference, which formed the Uganda National Liberation Front. I was one of the few people there in 1978, 79, when we are coming back fighting Idi Amin Dada. Arusha is well known for the tribunal that has brought peace in Rwanda. And Arusha is well known for having a good mountain. So, Professor PLO LUMUMBA, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are enjoying in that place. I can see you have even gone to work. We are sorry to get you out of your time.
Thank you very much, David. Thank you very much for inviting me this evening to share my thoughts with you on a subject that is as topical as it is important. I'm glad to join you this evening.
Thank you very much. First of all, before Professor comes in, I want to make a statement in 2 minutes. The conflicts, the wars in Africa, some of the wars are not ours. The wars are planted on us. If you look across Africa from Libya, Somalia, Central African Republic, Boko Haram, Mozambique, DRC Congo, the ISIS. Africa never knew the ISIS. We don't even know what it stands for. But you'll be surprised that the ISIS was delivered to us. The Obama started ISIS in Syria, and later on this ISIS spread across the entire globe. Remnants of ISIS now are killing us, mutilating us across our streets. It was not our making. The Libyan scenario, therefore, works as a case study for this show this evening. Those who want to join us and see how external proxy wars are fought on this continent of Africa. We have Libya cut into parts of General Khalifa Haftar and the government in Tripoli, supported by the AU and the United Nations. The same countries that brought the war in Libya, France, support General Khalifa Haftar to cut himself a cake in Benghazi. We have wars across. Boko Haram. Gaddafi, before his death, he told you there was Boko Haram. It will kill, destroy. He said they were Al-Qaeda terrorists who were attacking Africa. He was a defender of this, and he had wiped out most of those Al-Qaeda operatives of Maghreb. Today, as we look across the continent of Sahara, the entire Sahara region of Mali, what do we see? Mali falling to pieces, Bamako, changing hands from insurgency, military takeovers, civilian. As we come to Central Africa and mining, the center for mining for France, where they have been mining and taking minerals every day, 2 jumbo jets full of Airbus minerals leaving Bangui. As we see in DRC Congo, the new armies that have lined up across DRC Congo, supported by elements of ISIS, are a threat to Africa. When you look at M23, ADF, ISIS, and all other formats that have always been in DRC Congo, you would agree with me, as Professor will be talking, that this is a problem. The same has happened in Mozambique, where you see part of Al-Shabaab, part 2, growing up in Mozambique in Cape Delgado. In fact, in the territory, northern territory of the place where, southern territory of the place where Professor PLO LUMUMBA is. This was conflicts on the, plus the South Sudan conflict. Whose conflict is it? Khartoum is in turmoil. Whose conflict is it? Ethiopia today, as we speak, rebels are 40 kilometers away from the Ethiopian capital, the headquarters of Africa. Whose conflict is it? Are we fighting proxy wars on the African continent? Joining me across from Tanzania is none other than Professor PLO LUMUMBA. Professor PLO LUMUMBA, a Pan-Africanist. If you cut his blood, it will sing Africa. If you touch his hand, it will sing Africa. If you touch his leg, it will talk Africa. If you touch his hair, it will talk Africa. Together, together we have stood firm. We are the remaining voices of Africa. 2 of us have struggled to put an impact, to tell African leaders enough is enough. The AU is rented. We have rented the AU to France. France makes decisions where to go, how to move, how to eat, how to inject, whether to send troops or not, whether to send observers to elections or not. What has happened to Africa? MATSANGA Africa perspective involves and wants to hear the perspective of PLO LUMUMBA, Professor PLO LUMUMBA. We should call him Professor Pan-Africa LUMUMBA, not Lumumba. Welcome to the show, Professor PLO LUMUMBA.
Thank you very much, David, for that analysis. And it is instructive that you have prefaced your presentation by giving your viewers and listeners what can be characterized as the state of Africa as we speak. And as we speak now, you have rightly said, there are numerous conflicts of different intensities. The conflict in Ethiopia is the one that occupies the headlines now. The turmoil in Khartoum, you've talked about Mali, you've talked about DRC, you've talked about CAR, you've talked about Mozambique, you've talked about others. But the question that you are putting on the table, what is the genesis of these conflicts? Let us agree that there are a number of conflicts that have been brought about by internal contestations. But even where there is internal contestations, there is the invisible hand. If you look at the conflict, for example, in Ambazonia in Cameroon, you will see that the proxy leaders such as Paul Biya are mere puppets who are controlled from Paris. If you look at the conflicts in Central African Republic, you'll also see the hands of France. And it's instructive that in quite a number of countries now, we are beginning to see mercenaries from Russia. We have heard about the hiring of mercenaries from Russia in Mali. We have heard about them being active in Central African Republic. And of course, in the Democratic Republic of Congo, there are a myriad of players who are present. And it can therefore be argued without fear of contradiction that Africa is now a theater of war. And some of these wars have been manufactured from outside of the continent. And even if they are not so manufactured, they are being sustained by external hands. It should not be lost on us that on the continent of Africa, as we speak now, there are no less than 13 foreign military bases. These are bases that are either controlled by the United States of America, China, Japan, the United Kingdom, France, principally. And what they are doing in Africa is to be present in the theater of war, with the consequence that Africans are now exposing themselves to activities which are external to her. And this can be understood in the context of the new scramble for Africa. And it is Kwame Nkrumah who warned us very early on, as early as the 1950s, that the regaining of political independence was not itself sufficient, and that the neo-colonial project would, among other things, entail an attempt by the neo-colonizers to ensure that Africa is under the control of these new players. And I'm suggesting to those who are listening to us that indeed we are in that space, a space where we are seeing conflicts emerging and conflicts being perpetuated and fueled by external players. France, as you know, has always been a permanent feature in these conflicts. They have been permanent in their former colonies. In Burkina Faso, we know the role that they played in eliminating Thomas Sankara. We are aware of the activities that they played in Mali, in Guinea-Conakry. We are aware of what they did in Togo. We are aware of what they did in Dahomey, now Benin. We are aware of what they did in Cote d'Ivoire. We are aware of their machinations in Algeria. We are aware of their machinations in Senegal. And it is not lost on us that in the run-up to the election that are going to take place in Libya in the month of December, the so-called negotiations and rapprochement have actually been midwifed in Paris, and that happened last week. And it is not only the French who are active. We also know that there are new players in the bloc. So in a sharp, short answer to the question that has been posed by Dr. MATSANGA, it is true that Africa is becoming a theater of wars which are being manipulated and perpetuated by external players, because as long as Africa is in conflict, then it becomes very easy to take away her resources. And these resources are prized resources like uranium, like coltan, and resources, particularly minerals, which are then used in the war industry and in other sectors in the technology industry. Africa is up for a difficult time because there is a new scramble for the continent.
Thank you very much, PLO, Professor, the Pan-African man himself. You have ably told us exactly what the problem is. We have African Union. We have an organization that is supposed to spearhead, to direct the African heads of state, the nations, to a proper direction. Let's take the question of Ethiopia, for example. Today, as we speak, our headquarters in Ethiopia is under threat. We don't know when, how the rebels will enter this territory, God forbid, and the city. What measures do you think? Is there a possibility of revamping African Union? Can we revamp African Union? Is it the African Union that Nyerere, where you are now in that area, that if you walk up on that mountain and facing Mount Kilimanjaro now, where you are, and ask you, Professor PLO, where is the African Union? What would you tell Nyerere?
You know, David, the African Union is in what I call a suspended state of animation. It is in comatose. The African Union is most eloquent in her silence. I remember that when the conflict in Tigray started, I was, among others, the first persons to ask, where is the voice of the African Union? And the African Union is in the business of issuing very pro forma and very weak statements. And that is why you see other players such as the United States of America. It's only yesterday that the Secretary of State of the United States of America visited Kenya. And the reason why they are doing so is because the African Union is missing in action. 1 week ago, out of my own initiative, I wrote a letter to all the 53 heads of states and government in Africa and asking them that this is the time to convene an emergency meeting of the heads of states and government in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, to discuss only 3 things. 1, the state of Africa. How are we to solve the conflicts in Africa, and within what time space? You and me know that the president of Uganda, Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, did suggest that a meeting be held in Kampala, Uganda on the 16th of this month. That meeting did not take place. You and me know that the AU has appointed an envoy, but the tragedy is that the voices that we are hearing about the conflicts in Africa is not from the African Union. We do not hear the voice of the chair about Cameroon. We do not hear their voices about the conflicts in the Democratic Republic of Congo. We do not hear them about the conflicts in Mozambique. We do not hear them about what is going on currently in Sudan. We do not hear them about Burkina Faso. The net consequence is that the leaders who are the founders of the OAU, which was converted into the African Union in 1999 in Sirte in Libya, and of course formally launched in Durban in South Africa 2002, would be shocked at the state of Africa. Today, Africa is once again becoming a footstool for other players from outside of the continent. And I think this is the time when African voices must now be heard, and we must be heard loudly and clearly. And we must tell the African Union leadership in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, that they have failed this continent, and they have failed the continent at the most critical time. How can it be that the voice of the African Union is so eloquent in her silence at a time when the headquarters of the African Union is under military threat? Today, you have seen the alerts that have been issued by the United States of America that there is a danger even to civilian aircrafts which are overflying Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. We know that some Western media are also exaggerating the situation with a view to creating panic in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. But the single message that must be sent to the African Union is that it has failed lamentably, and it is only fit for one thing: to be revamped, and the current leadership to be totally ejected from mismanaging the affairs of the continental body.
You know very well, Professor PLO Lumumba, on top of the letters that you have written, I have written a number of documents Some of them you have told me, please don't publish. And I have told the world, I personally took a step never to step in the AU until the current chairperson, Muhammad Faki, goes away and goes back to Chad. His 4-year term, the second term will be over. We shall take back our AU. We shall make sure that the future generation of Africa stands to gain an AU that can give direction. An AU, you rightly said, it is an amnesia. It is sleeping. It's gone. You have actually given them a state of mind which is, in amnesia you can see something. But this one is in a total coma. Because it is rented. For you travel too much across the continent. You don't need to say these words, but let me say them myself. I have real evidence, serious evidence that incriminates the chairperson of African Union, Muhammad Faki. He has rented the IU to the French. There is nothing in African Union today. If you sit in Arusha and you have French-speaking countries coming in Arusha, and you want to make a vote for Africa, the French-speaking countries will team up to bring their own candidate, and nobody from the English-speaking country will pass. That's why in South African Pan-African Parliament, you saw chairs flying and blows. People fought. And you know, most of us, when we speak, people in Africa think we just speak. But God has given us the talent to speak. We are speaking for the masses, millions who cannot speak, who cannot say France is the main obstacle for Africa's development. Yes, there are problems that Africans ourselves, like a corruption, which we have on the continent. But the main influence, the factor that kills Africa, comes from one nation in the metros of Europe called France. The fight in South African Parliament was the French versus the English. Because the English said, hello, you have been taking this term, this is the second term, you took the other one. Now you want us again to give you. We better give this thing to this lady from Zimbabwe or another guy from another country. The French-speaking people went back, sat down and started fighting. Marema and his group, as usual in South Africa, gave them blows. So look at the African Union we have. And let's be candid. We have no spokesman left on the continent of Africa. Apart from PLO, another lady from Zimbabwe, myself, we try to speak out. We try to speak out. Look at the election of Democratic Republic of Congo. The African Union sent their observers and the monitors. They brought a report and said the elections were free and fair. On the swearing-in ceremony of His Excellency, President Tshisekedi, the African Union chairperson himself, called Muhammad Faki from Chad, from the Fulani tribe, actually specifically in Chad, said he doesn't want any head of state to fly into Democratic Republic of Congo for swearing-in ceremony. The only head of state who flew in was Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta, together with other Kenyan delegation and Zimbabwe, sending the Vice President, General Constantine Chiwenga. The rest of Africans shied away from DRC Congo. No sooner had the swearing-in got finished than Tshisekedi, whom they rejected, became the chairperson of the same organization. So this is the Africa we have. It's the double standards of Africa we have, PLO. We are in chaos. We are in chaos, and we must speak up. There are so many people in Africa who cannot speak up like you and me. Not because they are able. They are not able. They are able.
But the question, David, now is, and this is what we must agonize about, that we have voices, some heard, some unheard, which are now emerging from Africa, and we appear to have diagnosed our problem. The question is, what is it that we must do as a matter of urgency to persuade leadership to make the changes that we have so clearly identified? We know that conflict undermines development, it undermines agriculture, it undermines health, it takes away opportunities for invention and innovation, and that the net effect is that it affects the socio-economic, political, and social and the development of the continent of Africa. People are asking now, what is it that can be done to make sure that Africa does not continue to suffer in the manner that it is? In other words, people are saying, yes, we have heard you. What are the solutions? This is the one area where I think that you and me do not have the monopoly of ideas, and Africans of goodwill, and there is no shortage of them, both within the continent and in the diaspora. The time has come that we must now move into the arena of looking for solutions and implementing those solutions.
Thank you. I agree with you, PLO LUMUMBA. Professor, I agree with you 100%. But there is a problem on Africa and African elite. And I have to be very frank. For me, I don't beat about the bush. I'm always honest. We love money. If you tell Africans, elite, the professors you see running around, these professors or Professor Ojungige, all this, you know why they work in UN? They like free money. You know, they want it. Have you noticed that 3/4 of the Black Africa work in UN and some were taken by Kofi Annan, which is very good. They tell you how we are very bad, how we Africans who are talking are very silly. You know, there is that element. You know, there are very many people, some of them like to listen to your speech. But when you call them to come and take action against Muhammad Faki, if you look back, you will be the only one left. They will be paid money by France. They will be paid money by United States of America. United States of America created as a war in Somalia. We are paying the price in Kampala, not because we have anything to do with Somalia, but Somalia as a neighbor. In 1991, they created a war and they ran with their trousers in the knees and left it for us. They have done it in Afghanistan. They are looking to do it somewhere in Addis Ababa. I'm telling you, I'm frank. I have intelligence. What will you do? You will kill me, but I will say the intelligence remains with me. Serious intelligence reports indicate that the US is also involved in the conflict of the United States, of Ethiopia. They have taken sides. So when you have a leader, you talk to the mediator. Which mediator? Which? Mr. is your friend, but not my friend. General Obasanjo Matsanga, he knows, I've told him. Where he is, I will never go. I will only listen to the conference and walk out. You saw me in Mombasa. I told you the truth, that General Obasanjo looks for money. He was very busy in Ethiopia. Quickly, when African trade started in Durban, he flew there. He was already there, cutting deals. We have a problem on the African continent, that people like money. Even if people ask you, why is Professor all the time speaking here, there? They think, in fact, they could kill you for thinking you are carrying a lot of dollars. You know, yet you are doing it for the good of Africa. This is the Africa we have. Look at Buhari, a giant, Nigeria, a giant of Africa, collapsing under our eyes. The AU's watching Nigeria sink to Atlantic Ocean. The type of kidnap, abductions, killings, rendition is taking place. The slaughter of tribes is taking place. They are being armed to slaughter other people. Nobody is talking about Nigeria. Nobody is talking about Amazonia, which you say. You and I, we are the only people talking about Amazonia.
And to his credit, I think Selo Malema made a very powerful statement about beer and Amazonia, which I think ought to be supported. And I agree with him, and I agree with you that really we have a problem. But that, David, should not stop us, because as I travel across Africa, I'm now convinced that there is a critical mass of Africans, both young and old, who are agonizing. And what we need to do is to organize. Beyond the agonization, we ought to agonize. And I'm very happy with what is happening in Khartoum now. You can see that professionals and ordinary, what is happening in Khartoum, the professionals and ordinary people in the streets of Khartoum and Omdurman have said, we are going to bring 1 million people to ensure that democracy is restored. And I think that kind of courage, that kind of resilience is what is going to send a clear message to those who are in positions of leadership that Africans now want to take charge of their affairs, because they have recognized that if they don't take charge of their affairs, then others will take the advantage and render Africa to be susceptible to external manipulation. And I hope that when I leave the program, those who will participate will, in addition to making comments on some of the things we have said, also propose some of the things that they think ought to be done. And I hold the view, David, that in addition to the work that you are doing of giving oxygen of publicity to these ideas, it should also be an opportunity for you to put together and to bring together men and women of goodwill, so that these ideas are then communicated to the political class across the continent of Africa, so that pressure is brought to bear and we go on the implementation phase, not naively believing that these problems will be solved very quickly, but at least when we begin to move in that direction, then we will re-energize hope that indeed Africa can be surveyed.
Yes, I thank you very much, Prof, for that. And I'm going to do it. I've told you before. I've always been frank in doing this. Before I leave you, there is one question that has bothered so many people. The question you talked about Khartoum, Sudan. Sudan would not have had a second coup. The second coup came because the generals, the same generals who are in power in Sudan today, are the generals who commanded the war in Darfur. It's not Bashir. Bashir was the commander-in-chief. The worst mistake of internationalism and the international agencies like ICC, when Karim Khan, the chief prosecutor, arrived in Khartoum with an intention of airlifting Bashir, there were serious thoughts, very serious thoughts. Intellectuals in Khartoum said, excuse me, you are allowing Bashir to be airlifted. But who was the commander of Darfur Janjaweed? The same men who have just taken power. They are my friends. I know them very well. They will not say they were not in the army at the time I knew them in 1994. I have known them. Now, if you when you have external networks that fear states like France, that fear states like the US, that fear states, and I say we can't touch those people, but we can touch Africa. The peace that I and Mbeki and other people, you remember the Darfur mission where I and Mbeki and other people traveled in all planes would have been shot down. We brought peace in Darfur. What has happened is in Darfur, people have reconciled. People have come back, they live together. There's no war there anymore. Why would you block Bashir? Why don't you put Bashir on trial in Khartoum? So the question is, do you think external agencies like International Court of Justice, International Criminal Court, also play a role in accelerating conflicts on the continent of Africa? Do they accelerate or they deter conflicts on the African continent?
David, first of all, let us agree that Sudan has its own problems. I know the SPLM North still has a problem in Bahr el Ghazal and in the Nuba Mountains, and even Darfur is not quite settled. But one of the problems that we have in Africa is that African institutions do not work. And we have seen this where there have been African heads of states and government or senior government officials who have been involved in activities that amount to criminality, and they are not prosecuted. We saw the problem of Hissène Habré, we saw the likes of Jean-Bedel Bokassa, the likes of Mobutu Sese Seko, we saw the problems in al-Bashir. And the reason why at a certain stage Africans thought that it would be useful to externalize our problems and to seek those solutions is because African institutions don't appear to work. And African countries are very quick to ratify instruments without looking at their implication. Look at the United States of America, whose leaders have been perpetrators of crimes against humanity. They themselves recommend that African leaders be prosecuted at the ICC, but they would never allow any of their presidents to be prosecuted. The United Kingdom would never allow Tony Blair to be prosecuted for the activities that they perpetrated in Iraq. So it is incumbent upon African leaders to ensure that impunity is not allowed to run riot in Africa, and that we have African institutions which are capable of dealing with these problems without fear of favor, and that the mere occupation of public office, even if it is the office of a president, should not offer anybody impunity. One of the things that has become that I think we can admire about South Africa in the recent past is the courage that we have seen in South African courts of prosecuting a former head of state in the person of Jacob Zuma. You may have problems with them in other areas, but I think it is that kind of courage that we need. And once we are able to demonstrate both to ourselves and to friends of goodwill that we are capable of punishing people who engage in criminality, then institutions such as the ICC will be rendered useless in matters concerning African affairs.
Okay, thank you very much, Professor PLO LUMUMBA. African institutions themselves, to one end, create their own problems and dig their own.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, David. You will now permit me to engage in other activities as you engage fellow Africans.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the time.
Have a good evening.
Enjoy Tanzania, enjoy Mount Kilimanjaro, enjoy the fresh air.
Thank you.
On that side of the mountain. Viewers, thank you very much. That is, you can come in now with your views, discuss other matters. We continue with the topic. Professor PLO LUMUMBA has put it, summarized it, that our institutions are too weak. That's why we bring in quite a lot of other difficulties. But African countries have a problem themselves. Their institutions are riddled with corruption, malpractices, human rights abuses, infringement of people's rights. A nation like Nigeria is like a shell without a leader. Everybody is killing each other. People are being killed in broad daytime. DRC Congo, a nation with a huge mineral resources, has a problem. Nobody wants to tame the rebels in DRC Congo. So we have a problem across the continent of Africa. Viewers, this is what it means to be what we are. Let's be as Africans. Let's stand as Africans. Let's operate like Africans. Are we the real Africans who were put there by God? Or we have disappeared? We allow things on the continent to happen which should not happen. Time and time again, for the last six years, I've struggled for the people of Biafra myself. I stood firm without knowing any Biafra. But I saw the people of Biafra suffering under the hammer of Buhari. I saw the people of Cameroon, Amazonia, suffering under the hammer of Paul Biya. I stood firm. I talked and I talked and I have talked and I will continue to talk to make sure that the people of those regions remain free to choose what they want to do with their freedom. There are no intimidations that can curtail me, because I am not part and parcel. I'm not using violence. I'm speaking for the people who cannot speak. The millions across Africa who cannot speak like I am doing. I stand for the truth. I struggle to get the truth. Africa is in danger of being swallowed by conflicts from all directions. Therefore, is it time for us as Africans to look at what can be done? What can we do as Africans? Wherever you are seated in any corner of African continent, when you get this clip, this video, what can you do to help the people of Biafra, the people of Amazonia in Cameroon to attain freedom, the people of Somalia in Mogadishu to get freedom, the people of Cape Delgado to get freedom, the people of Congo to get freedom, to get rid of terrorists that harbor themselves in the forests of Congo and they come out to attack innocent people. What can we do to help countries like South Sudan that need our help? A peace agreement signed, but no money to implement the proposals that were put forward. What can Africa do? Yet we have the resources that people keep on talking to us and keep on showing us. What can we do as Africans? Is there time for us to stand up and say no? Has that time come? When will it come? Is our African Union doing enough? Look at the civil war in Libya, which has turned Libya upside down. Libya, once a country that was giving us money, its population is as poor as a church mouse. And perhaps church mouse is better because it sees money. But you can't see money in Libya at all. Are we enemies of ourselves? We have made errors. Who is fighting the war in Africa? Whose war is it in Africa? I want to take this opportunity to thank the security agencies, the intelligence network in the Republic of Kenya for having intercepted the 3 terrorists and brought them back to stand trial or to go back in the same prison that they broke. Thank you very much for the good job. The National Intelligence Services, the police, the DCI, the Army Military Intelligence, and all those who took part in the search for the 3 terrible terrorists who had broken out of prison, a maximum prison you can imagine, and gone out. We thank you very much for your cooperation, the population of Kenya, that it is only through the population of Republic of Kenya and other states across that we shall get rid of this homegrown terrorism. I want to take this opportunity to thank the people of Uganda for the resilience and to pay condolences to those who have lost their lives and those who are still in hospital, nurturing various wounds afflicted to them by the bomb attacks that took place in Kampala on Monday. The situation, therefore, is Africa must stand and say no. Enough is enough. Enough of war. Enough of bloodshed. Enough of killings. Enough is enough. For those who are killing Biafrans in Nigeria, Nigeria needs a political solution, not a military or judicial solution. You can imprison as many people as you want, but you won't get Nigeria working, Mr. Buhari, if you don't seek a political solution for the people of Nigeria. The situation in Nigeria needs a political solution, not a military, not judicial, not arrests, not rendition. It needs a political solution. It is high time you came out and did a political solution for your legacy to be determined, that you once overthrew governments, you came back, became a civilian, and became a leader of the same people, the same democracy that you trashed, and today you are leaving a legacy. Less than that, I don't think there is anything much that Africa can say which will not, and everything that I've said has always come true. I want to thank my production team. I want to thank PLO LUMUMBA and others who have been watching. My brothers who have been sending quite a lot of messages, thousands here. I can't even read them. I can see the letter of the lawyer of Mr. Namdi Khan. There is a rule, a law in Kenya, and I want to tell you, since all of you Biafrans and Nigerians have come on this platform, when the matter is in court in the Republic of Kenya, we cannot make comments about it because the courts will issue warrants for us journalists who will make comments in favor of what is happening. We have left the courts to find out the truth. We have nothing to hide for us. We didn't know, and we shall never know. We don't know who he is, where he was. We didn't ask for the interview. He asked for an interview. One day, he will come out, God willing, he will tell the truth. What happened? For us, we continue to do our job, to educate, to fight for the freedom of the people of Biafra, to strengthen the democratic institutions of freedom of a referendum, to go away, to rearrange Nigeria such that it doesn't collapse and sink under the Atlantic Ocean. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. This is MATSANGA Africa Perspective, a program that looks at perspectives of Africa. Which way Africa? Are proxy wars? Are we fighting proxy wars? You have heard from both of us. You can make a decision, continue watching, give this step to another African, let him hear. If there is any contribution that you want in terms of bringing about enough material for us to give other Africans, to call upon them to come together, do so. God bless you. God bless Africa. This station is for Africa, with Africa, by Africa. Ciao.